So we're going to move on now, and we're going to invite to stage the DDG, that's Deputy Director General, Mr. Mathabatha, Mathabatha Mokonyama, from the National Public Transport Regulator, to give us a presentation, and then we will have another session after him. So please, a round of applause as he makes his way to stage.
Thank you, Program Director, leadership of TBCSA, honored guests, ladies and gentlemen. I have a pretty short presentation. Today I've got no intention to talk numbers, so you may understand. And after that energetic presentation by the panel discussion by the minister, you wouldn't want somebody to bore you with a lot of stories. I'm going to talk to you about what are the things that we were bringing in or brought into the system to try and assist you in terms of you having to get your licenses much quicker. Meaning therefore that we'll do a little bit of introduction, we'll talk about the committee and what are the reforms in that space. The amendment bill then now, Amendment Act, because it was signed in June this year, with some of the reforms in the tourism space. And then we are going to talk about the regulations, and we will conclude about after a bit of some update on the OLS. Please, we are not going to talk about the number of applications in the system, what is happening, and so on. You are welcome to ask questions in relation to that, but it's not definitely in the presentation. Now, all of this, I think you know about the NPTR. Some of you have got very serious issues with the NPTR, which we accept. And then it came into being, and this is important, it came into being when we were doing the NLTA from the Transitional Act. Because as early as that time, colleagues from the industry wanted a different regime from the normal application processes of operator licenses. But at the time, the issues were what to call concurrences, because from one province, you needed to have concurrence in another province before they give you a license. But you have these services that are sort of, can start in province 1, say Cape Town, Western Cape, and go through a number of provinces up until Mpumalanga. So it was very difficult to get those concurrences from all of those. Now then the NPTR was then introduced as a body that can deal with those things. I think what we underestimated was the pressure that would come with that kind of responsibility. So that is, in short, the NPTR. So basically, you apply, we process, we adjudicate, you uplift. Now, I'm sure that the challenges that we have, now the color of the laser is more like the color of the pictures. At process and adjudication space, I think that's where we come in. That's where I think you experience delays, but that's where we want to talk to you about the reforms in the space. But we also, on our side, we have a little bit of a challenge in that there are those that apply and then abandon the process along the way. So even if there is positive feedback, they don't come and uplift the licenses. I don't know what would be the reasons. I think among them would be that people are no longer wanting to pursue the business, or any other thing might have happened in the process. But that is not a big problem. The challenge is how we deal, how we fast track the application processes up to adjudication. Now, the NPTR committee currently And this was one of the major issues. You see, when we talk, we've been talking, blaming COVID and other related issues. But I think the big problem here was how the NPTR committee was constituted at the time. The intention of the authors was to have an independent body that would adjudicate on long distance and tour operations. What then was put into the act was that these people should come from the department. That was a problem. That was a huge problem. And that's what we've corrected in the Amendment Act. So you have people who are doing other things and then they have to meet once in a while to go into applications, to look into applications. Now, as part of the work that we had done with yourselves, or colleagues from your side, was to then have a task team to deal with those challenges around the backlog and then make certain recommendations. Some of them have found themselves into the legislation. I must confess, the legislation was already in the making at the time. Now, some of those will be incorporated in the regulations. Not all of them. Not all of them. And then, as I've said, the amendment bill that we've always said has been in the making for some time, from 2017, was finally signed on the 11th of June. So we have the National Land Transport Amendment Act, number 26 of 2023. So that is the Amendment Act, and it is now law. It has not been proclaimed, it has been assented to. It has not been proclaimed because of finalizing the regulations. Some of the issues are those that affect yourselves. Once it's proclaimed, then all systems go. Now, one of the reforms in the space was to ensure that the NPTR become truly independent, like any other adjudication body or regulating committee or regulating body. So it will have to be constituted by people from outside. We want to assume that those people will have no other work to do, because they would have applied, they would have signed for the job, and theirs will then be to adjudicate. From sitting once in 2 months, we then did monthly. When we're dealing with the backlog, it was 3 times a month. We are now sitting twice a month. They are sitting twice a month. We believe we can increase that frequency, because then there will be dedication or dedicated people dealing with that. Now, the other issue is, the other issue is the whole issue of Regulation 25. We are simplifying it. We are making it well known. What we have done ever since we met, I think, was it last year, CEO? Ever since we met last year, what we had to clarify 25.2, that if you have applied for a renewal, there is no need. It means your license is valid up until you get a new license. What we're discussing is it infinito, is it indefinite? What does it mean? Is there a time frame on how this extension will deal with it? And then we are also then dealing with a new clause, 34 capital letter A, dealing with the simultaneous accreditation and operating license application process. I think we need to have some discussion here, see if we can be given people on this very last one in particular, because for some strange reasons we seem to be people who are heavily regulated, but some of us are for less regulation. What I'm trying to mean here is that we need to do accreditation once, at some stage, once. once you're accredited, you can bring as many vehicles as you can. We don't need to then follow up with accreditation, but it will be for a definite period. Not, when I say once, I don't mean for a lifetime. Okay. I don't want to bore you much. That is just the regime around fees. They will be gazetted for comments, and then they will then be made regulations or gazetted for implementation. Now, in terms of some of the things that we have done, the recent meeting of 15-16 and 15-16 has dealt with quite a number of applications. And then we are now contacting the people who have applied for purposes of them coming to uplift. And that's where the challenge is, the main challenge, because I just don't know what is wrong with people coming to uplift the licenses, because we will fight with them to have these things processed much quicker, but they don't come and collect. Last but one slide is that I think we've also automated our systems now. The issue around registered letter doesn't work anymore. We've got issues with SAPO. So we do accept emails. And then the other issue is that we are considering is to then deal with the extension up to a particular period. And I'll tell you why, because I said we need to talk CEO. The other major issue is that once accredited, why do you still want to gazette? Because there won't be objections. Why do you still, because gazetting is to invite other people to object. But you have targeted market, you have your own people. Unless those that do not have targeted people, and then would want to pick tourism as and when the need arises. But really this calls a question, why would we need to gazette for 21 days and give people only 30 days extension? It doesn't make sense. I know I'm making a lot of own goals, but you can quote me on this one. I'm scoring a lot of own goals. In conclusion, I think one issue to take home is the redesign of the NLTIS. It's complete, it's finished, it's done. Everything will be automated. You'll be able to view the status of your application from the system, and you'll be able to be reminded when there are issues that you'd want, we would want you to come and clarify, or we would want more information in terms of documentation. The other issue that we are discarding, we want to discard out of the application process. You would recall we have an issue with maintenance. History or proof that the vehicle has been maintained or what. That is very important to us. But I think we've got other mechanisms. Once you have a roadworthy certificate, that should suffice. So I've scored a lot of own goals. You can quote me on those ones, and then I'll be accountable and responsible for making sure that they happen. Thank you very much.
What we're going to do is ask the DDG to take a seat, and he's going to be joined by Tshifhiwa. So we welcome Tshifhiwa back to stage, who will be facilitating some questions from the industry. However, I do have time to take 1 or 2 burning questions. Anybody? Please, can you come forward to me? There's one hand. Or can you give him a mic, if the team is there with a mic? Is there a question from the side at the back? Okay, please proceed. Please keep it as succinct as possible.
Yeah, good morning. My one question is, with the backlog, how quickly is it going to be cleared, because it's damping too much on our compliance?
That was quite succinct. Thank you. Do we have one more? We have time for one more. Anybody? Going, gone. That's it.
Now, thank you very much for the question. Look, I wouldn't say there is a backlog. I would say there might be delays. There are delays. The backlog was the group that we identified 2 years ago, and we dealt with it. Now, that's where we said almost 400 people didn't come and uplift for one reason or the other. But we do experience these delays, and that's why I'm saying we are simplifying the process. The first thing that we would want to say is that once we are accredited, we don't need to come and accredit again when we acquire a new vehicle. And we just then need to give you a license. The other issue is that because you are an organized industry, once accredited, there might not be a need to gazette. We just want to see how we get around legislation on that one. If it's in regulations, we definitely can amend regulations anytime. But those are the, excuse me, those are the things that delay the application processes. Waiting for 21 days and then having to deal with them after the 21 days lapses. But then in the process, we go back and forth in terms of a heap of documentation, which you want to also then want to lessen in terms of the requirements that are needed for an operating license. I'm happy to engage offline on a case-by-case basis. Thank you.
You spoke about the new system, which means that there's going to be an automation, of some sort.
Yes.
Where people will be able to use the system, they can be able to view the application to see where the applications are in the process. When are we going to see the implementation of that? When are we going to see the implementation of that process or the new IT system?
Well, we finalized the system last August. We were training the provinces, we're training the NPTR staff, and training everybody. So the system was completed in August, tested, and then people trained. Now it is being rolled out. The NPTR was the first, because that's the commitment we made to the trustee, that we will have the system up and running. What we then can check is when it's then going to be linked or interoperable with the website of the department, so that the colleagues can view the application process. But the system is now in place.
Okay, so we can expect it in the next 2 to 3 months?
No, in the next month.
Okay, you have it from the DDG. In the next month, we should have an online system that will be used. You spoke also about the independence of NPTR, like any other regulatory body, so that it can be able to be independent, it can be able to have more meetings, to adjudicate, and to have, to be faster than what it is now. How do you, or when do you envisage this to happen?
Like I say, the Amendment Act does not resolve that issue only. But we have got an issue around the Ubers of this world, e-hailing services and stuff. So that is the space that took some time in terms of finalizing the regulations. But we have now received feedback from the state law advisors. We are finalizing on the regulations. And once the regulations are approved by the minister, then the act will be in effect. Will be implemented, the Amendment Act. And that's where all of these things that we are talking about will come in. For obvious reasons, once implemented, you need to advertise for the new boards.
Yeah. Okay.
And that would take a couple of months.
I think that is clear. And the advertisement for the new board, it's open to anyone.
Including you.
Including ourselves, if we want to nominate some of the members of the tourism industry to be part of the board.
I think that is the aim. The one thing we did not say loudly at the time was that flaw in the legislation to say it will be constituted by government officials. So we've taken it out completely. So it will be people coming from all walks of life based on their expertise in tourism, transport, legal, economics, and so on. And those people, because now we will be holding them accountable, we want to believe that they do not be people like ourselves who is a director at TBCSA and many other jobs. I'm not saying they're not welcomed. I'm just saying we'd want people who will be willing to meet more than twice a month.
Thank you. So I think that clarifies, when this is going to be. So as soon as the minister signs the regulations
the
act is going to be in effect, then you advertise, then we can recommend who comes into that committee.
Yes, sir.
Now, thank you very much. Unless if there's another burning question.
Do we have one more? There we go.
Just don't give me names. It's not yet time.
And how do these people get paid?
How? I didn't get that.
How do they get paid? I mean, if somebody goes and sits on the panel more than twice a month, how do they get remunerated?
Now, fortunately, like any other board of a state-owned entity, they get paid per meetings. They get paid for preparation and for the meetings, for sittings. So, as they sit frequently, they will get their fees, daily fees. Like another board. Like another board. If we want you to meet monthly, we'll pay you for for preparation, 1 day for preparation, 1 day for the sitting. If we want you to meet daily, we'll pay you for 31 days, including each day that you prepare for those days.
All right.
A round of applause, please. That's the DDG and Tshifhiwa Tshivhengwa.